The charm of the image. Ordinary movements filmed and projected somehow allow for such motion to be seen anew, swaying trees, boiling water, dancing bodies. The charm of the image, the cinematographic vision the filmmaker has, takes shape from the shadows that move on the screen. No horror can be so horrible, no beauty so enchanting, if really seen, as the horror or enchantment suggested by its shadow. Light and shadow tug at us, forcing us to feel certain emotions. Fear, awe. But why? The biggest question Blade Runner asks is, what does it mean to be conscious, to have an identity, to have memories? Light and shadow are used to convey the film's conflicting themes, artificial life and human life, confusion and clarity. The streets of the city are dark, save for artificial lighting, neon greens, blues, and reds. It is natural light altered, meddled with. The kind of light changes when Deckard begins his investigation of the Nexus 6 group at the Tyrell Corporation. It is there he meets Rachel, an assistant to Tyrell. Deckard doesn't question his job, nor the nature of the replicants he kills.
Replicants are like any other machine. They're either a benefit or a hazard. If they're a benefit, it's not my problem.
Until he meets Rachel. The lighting is natural and full. It reflects golden on the walls, creating shimmering patterns. It suggests clarity, godliness. Deckard conducts a test on Rachel, designed to identify replicants, asking a series of questions while monitoring her pupils. During the test, shades are drawn halfway, creating a shadowy atmosphere, one of mystery and confusion. Rachel's eyes glimmer strangely in the low light. After intensive questioning, Deckard realizes she is a replicant, but doesn't know it. This confuses Deckard, and he isn't sure of his feelings towards her. Typically, it's easy for him to write off replicants as machines.
She doesn't know.
She's beginning to suspect, I think.
Suspect? How can it not know what it is?
But she seems different to him. She's the catalyst for the questioning of his own consciousness and identity. How do our memories define us, and how reliable are they?
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
Rachel goes through an intense internal journey as she learns the truth about herself, which is externalized through light and shadow. When we first meet Rachel, she's bathed in golden sunlight.
I'm Rachel.
She's confident that she's human. But as Deckard conducts the test on her, questioning her identity, the shades are drawn halfway. The full golden light on Rachel has been cut in half, as her confidence and her sense of self. Later, when she goes to Deckard's apartment and learns she's a replicant, she is mostly in shadow. She is confused. Her entire sense of self is shattered. And when she returns to Deckard's apartment, she is shown in light again. She releases her curly hair from its tight bun, more relaxed with her identity. It is then that Rachel and Deckard really begin to fall for each other. Despite all the confusion and pain we feel over our identities, we can connect with each other, love each other. We can share in this experience of being, often in shadows, sometimes in light. Perhaps the only kind of clarity we can feel is connection. In the last scene, Deckard comes across an origami unicorn made from silver paper. It catches the light. This is the last push for Deckard to come to terms with his sense of self. Earlier in the film, there's a scene where Deckard is recalling a memory of a unicorn galloping through a dark forest. The origami hints the memory was an implant. Even though we consciously and unconsciously project ourselves onto the world in efforts to make meaning out of our sense of self, Blade Runner shows how often we turn away from looking inward, even when the opportunity is staring us in the face. There is something intrinsic about how light and shadow affects us, not only in cinema, but in real life. What is in shadow is unknown, mysterious, secret, perhaps even threatening. What is in the light is sure, understandable, beautified, and sometimes even precious. There is also something to be said about the intensity of light and shadow. Softer light creates smoother images, which may imply dreaminess or mellowness. Harder light creates images with more contrast, the lighting more intense. This may imply intensity, fear, or confusion. Light and shadow directly affect mood and emotions. They have the power to create atmosphere. And in the cinema, with the charm of the image, the emotional power light and shadow has is heightened and can be used to convey specific meaning. Cinema casts a charm on us, shedding light on the nature of our ego. The cinematograph, in its recording and reproducing of a subject, always transforms it, recreates it as a second personality, whose appearance can trouble one's consciousness to the point of leading it to ask, "Who am I? Where is my true identity?" Cinema tricks us into examining ourselves, creating our doubles before us. And what exactly are these doubles, these citizens of cinema's projected universe? First of all, they are our doubles, sprouting from our imaginations. Often we are in the dark when it comes to understanding ourselves. It's even unclear what we mean when we say I. Is our sense of self created solely from our experiences, our memories, or do we have a hand in how we perceive ourselves? It's all very confusing. So it's not unusual that we try to make meaning out of our lives, try to find coherence in the chaos. We do this by projecting ourselves onto the world. From this projection of human individuality into an image that has become external to it, we attempt to make sense of things, our lives, ourselves.
Indulge me.
We do this all the time. Our double is perhaps the single great universal human myth. It is seen in the reflection, the shadow, felt and divined in the wind and in nature, seen also in dreams. Each person lives accompanied by his own double, not so much a true copy, yet still more an alter ego, an ego alter, another self. Doubles are a large part of human nature. Cinema utilizes this doubling, drawing out our own double to make it live in an organized collective dream, the dream of the filmmaker. Cinema hints, entices, and sometimes forces us to ask the questions. Who am I? Where is my true identity? We are drawn in, charmed, and urged to examine ourselves. Cinema is the ultimate medium for finding coherence in the chaos of our lives, or at least trying to. Through use of light and shadow, Blade Runner depicts how often we are in the dark, choose to be in the dark, in shadow, ourselves unclear and confusing. Finding that sliver of light is possible, that feeling of clarity. We can connect and relate to one another. Cinema has the power to present our doubles, engage doubles, charm us with reflections of reality, and give us insight which we can apply to our real life. Cinema beguiles us, tricking us into examining ourselves. Perhaps we will always make meaning for ourselves out of attempts to understand, to feel less confused. But maybe, just maybe, there is no meaning in anything, no objective significance we can latch onto. Meaning is something we've just created for ourselves, something to help create coherence in our messy lives. No wonder there are so many films, so many different perspectives cinema presents on life. It's a search with no end, but it doesn't seem that we'll stop looking anytime soon. It could be that we'll always see ourselves in the world, in reflections of ourselves, in light and shadow.